remember that day pretty well. I think that was like what I woke up to, or it happened like pretty early in the morning that I found out. But it was pretty gut wrenching. Um, you would think after seeing so many horrible incidents like this, that you would, I don't know, grow a thicker skin, or, but I don't know. It's not something you get used to. It was pretty devastating.
I was at home, and my house is like right outside of downtown Minneapolis, and just Minneapolis in general. So I was like, we were looking at TV and we saw everything. We were like, this is insane. You know what I mean? Like, especially when everything started like burning down, we could like smell it in the air.
At the time, I was downtown. Um, I worked as a photographer. I stay pretty connected to the community through social media. Um, and I kind of didn't know what to think. It seems like recently this has been the norm. Um, I remember Trayvon Martin. I remember Mike Brown, what happened in Ferguson, and it kind of broke my heart. I just didn't want to see, this happen in my city. I thought Minneapolis was better than this. Um, so it was a lot of conflicting emotions.
I still don't have words for it. It's absolutely, yeah, I have no words. It was so horrifying to me. I was so upset. He was killed not too far from my house. I've lived in this community for 25 years, and a lot of things have happened here, but there was just something so different about having that murder be so close and be so deliberate. Yeah. It's still with me. I mean, it's still very present.
Well, I think for me, what's helpful is not only to, mourn for the losses that we've sustained, uh, but to paint an optimistic vision of the future, paint something brighter, so that we have, something to look towards. I think it's really powerful to make artwork that's positive and that can unify people.
A couple like months after the George Floyd thing, I decided to, finally speak up, because usually I'm not the, even though I make music and all sorts of stuff, like I'm usually not the person to speak up on like social issues, simply because sometimes I can't even think of the right words. But I had came up with a like a rap spoken word, and I made a video for it, and I was promoting it all on Instagram, and Instagram took it down.
Wow.
So yeah, I was trying to put money into promotion, and they said that it was against the guidelines, and they wouldn't let, like, after it racked up a good amount of information, like a good amount of views and stuff like that, they took it down and said it was against the guidelines, and that I was, falsely speaking on things. Kind of effed up, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was very interesting. I had a conversation with a lot of other fellow photographers. Um, I felt there was an importance to cover what was happening in our community from our perspective. I thought that it was very important to have people of color and people that are involved in the community document what is truly happening in the community. I think anyone can look and see CNN or MSNBC and see the headlines and see the cliff notes of the events, but it really doesn't tell the story at all.
Theoretically, I've always been interested in the complexity of the situation that we're in, and lots of layers, and lots of color. And I'm really interested in the places where lines and edges meet. That's kind of been my MO for about 15 years as a painter. And I think my expectation of myself and what I'm hoping to share with the community is just to do like a deeper dive into all of these beautiful places where concepts of potential and expansion meet the moment of contraction and displacement, right? So it's like my work is, I would say, by nature is very optimistic. But in this last year, a lot more of the like limiting factors of what is going on in terms of racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, all of the things, police brutality have really crept in, so that the optimism is still there, but it's tempered, right, with this realism.
Because I bet every black person here has dealt with someone touching their hair or being surprised that they're academically successful.
It's always, a bit nerve-wracking, or I don't know. I'm always aware of, what I look like, and the impact that could have on me in Minneapolis, especially. Um, I mean, but it's kind of the same as always. I try and walk with my head up, and yeah, just do what I can to hang on through this kind of stuff.
I think in this moment, those of us who are experiencing our own racialized identity within this moment in Minneapolis, really have to take all these extra steps. I feel like I have to take tons of extra steps and extra care about where I go, what I do, who I'm with. Unfortunately, a lot of times it involves making sure that if I'm going to be doing a ton of stuff at night, that white people are with me, frankly. I feel like it's really limited my mobility. My painting studio is in Northeast Minneapolis. And what it means for me is that I don't go to my studio at night. I used to go to my studio at night often. Night is a very creative time for me as a painter. But it feels like in this time of heightened police tension, community tension, this unresolved case, the lack of resolution around what we're going to do about the police force in general in the city, it just feels like it's better for me to be really safe and really cautious.
Honestly, okay, every time I'm driving or I'm walking somewhere and I see a police, my heart starts beating so fast. And that's so wrong, because they're supposed to be, you're always taught growing up, those are the people who you're supposed to look up to and even want to be when you grow up, because we need people like that to protect us. And then they're the people who are causing like all this.
Yeah. I remember the first shooting of an unarmed Black man in Minneapolis that I remember. About a week later, I was pulled over by the Minneapolis police. Me, one friend in a car, and we were pulled over for failure to complete a stop at a stop sign. Relatively small offense. We were held for an hour and a half with 8 police officers. And I remember filing a complaint, never receiving a follow-up, but the officer said, "Hands up, don't shoot. I don't want to have to hurt one of you guys tonight." And that has always stuck with me. I think that was my first real experience personally with the police that really scared me, that really allowed me to see into what is wrong with that system, what is wrong with the organization, what's wrong with the way that we go about it.
I guess one thing is just like, I got brothers, so, and it always scares me, and my mom. I got my dad and I got my brothers, and I would hate to see anything happen to them. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're an officer or just anybody, because like if I got that call that something had happened to them, I would be lost and devastated. So I just want people to know that like it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your mom, your dad, you never know. And like I know nobody would want anything to happen to their family. And so like George Floyd and all these other people who were, murdered by police, those were somebody's family.
You took justice and you activated just us to get justice. Okay? Okay?
I was happy to see that there were any charges brought against him. Like, the bar feels so low that, I don't know, it's almost a relief just to see it go to trial. But it's hard to have, any kind of faith in a system that would allow something like that to happen. So I'm not sure what kind of changes the charge would really bring to the outcome of the case.
I don't think this is the turning point. I think this is a stepping stone. There's so much to be worked on, and I don't think that law enforcement is one of the biggest priorities right now in the world, and it should be because of how much chaos it has caused. It's finally getting the light brought to it, but there's so much more we have to do before we really see change and before we see people taking it as a priority.
I was pleased to see the conviction. I think, I don't know when someone has already lost their life, I don't know, how do you go? There just seemed to be, there's more that we needed to do there. It needs to be really serious. You can't justify murder. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, there's somebody who's not here right now, and that didn't need to happen. And so, like, what can we do as a community to respond to that, to make sure it never happens again? And then also, like, to really look at the underlying cause of all of this.
I'd be really upset if it was like, if they charge him with manslaughter, because it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't an accident. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just watching the video and like how angry it made people. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. So all of those officers knew what they were doing. So if he was charged with manslaughter, not only would I be extremely upset, but everybody, who is out there protesting, who is sitting at home trying to raise awareness, would be extremely upset, furious. We would probably be out in the streets protesting again.
I think it relates back to everything that we've seen leading up to this. It was disappointing. I think the biggest concern then and now is that a conviction won't happen. It's really frustrating, but nothing leads you to believe that will occur. It seems to be a revolving door. It happens and happens and happens. We peacefully assemble, we march, we try to make our voices heard, and no change really ever comes from it. So I'm very hopeful, but you still have that part of doubt.
One thing I would just say and invite people to sort of consider is that, to me, there's a real disconnect between sort of policing a community and policing a community you don't know. And as I've been doing all of my patrols and like just being out on the street with my neighbors and things like that, it's like we've sort of decided we can help each other because we actually are invested in each other's stories. We actually have known each other over, not just over days and months, but over like years and decades. And we've watched each other grow up. We watched kids grow up. We've been here, right? And so like my invitation, and I think this may differ from people to people, it would be different for different people, but for me, what would be really important is like, I just really think that police officers and people who serve the community need to live in the community, like get to know the community.
It's tough. I think that it shows they will be held accountable. that there can be consequences for their actions, that they need to operate respectfully, and they need to be in the community and not just police the community. I think Minneapolis struggles with having the majority of the officers from outside of Minneapolis. They don't understand us. They don't understand how we feel, how we act. I think it's very common, you'll get around a group of African Americans and we act a certain way, and they just don't understand that, we might just be having fun. They always take something out of context. And I hope that it really is a wake-up call for them to learn more about the community and be involved in the community.
Just to see how there was no really, I never saw a change with how the police were taught, especially when it came to how much aggression they can use against us. So I think that's what needs to be fixed. Plus, I feel like it's too easy to become like law enforcement. Police, their training is not for how they're supposed to protect us and everything. They don't learn enough, and it should be harder to be that level. I don't know. I think we could do a better job with the teaching portion and who we choose to protect us, because honestly, it seems like they're hurting us more than they're helping right now.
I feel like I've thought about that before, and I don't know if there are words alone that can lead to those sorts of changes. I think in the past year, it hasn't really been words from anybody that I've seen. It's been action that have really started to make changes.
I think if, I was face to face with an officer, everybody says that, like, for example, like a black man is really scary and intimidating, that it scares those officers. But in reality, like, I'm more scared than you are of me. So I would tell them that, like, if you think you're scared of us, like, most of the time we're more scared of you. So treat us like any other human, no matter like our race. That shouldn't determine how you go about treating us in any situation.
You can definitely tell the presence and the role of the police is changing in Minneapolis. You can tell that the culture of Minneapolis is slowly starting to turn. It's hard to fully see the effects because of COVID, and I think in the year following, we'll see more reform and we'll see more change. I just hope the city comes back in the way that we would like.
Well, I mean, obviously I want to see justice, but it's hard to hold out hope for that when, I don't know, I feel like this is what our system is designed to do. It's hard to envision it really holding itself accountable for that. I guess my hope would be for the people of Minneapolis to once again come together and stand up for what we believe in, whatever that looks like. But I don't put much faith in the court system at this point. So
I think we just need to, keep raising awareness that it's been a problem, and it is a problem. Just like with the Breonna Taylor stuff, like, we're still saying her name, you know what I mean? We're still, telling people, educating people, and doing our part. I feel like I'm always doing my part as a African-American female, just raising awareness to, like, my white friends or to people who may not know enough. And, yeah, that's what I think that's what we should all do moving forward, and stick together too. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people want to see us fight each other and bump heads, but if we all, you know, stick together and love each other more and just accept each other, no matter, because we're all human. You know what I mean? So I think that's what we can do moving forward. And
Do better. Even if you think you're doing enough, you're not. You can always, and that's for everybody, especially law enforcement, correct other people. You can always see someone doing wrong. You can always help them. To be in such a position and not use your voice, especially when you know right from wrong, that is one of like the most hurtful things you could do. So use your voice and use your power for the better and to help other people and support other people.
I definitely want there to be a consequence in terms of the verdict of murder. I think that the ripple effect that I'm seeking is that the community that lives here in Minneapolis, that we feel that this injustice is acknowledged. I think that, I just think that we're just really, really, really going to be in trouble as a city if the verdict does not acknowledge wrongdoing, if it doesn't acknowledge murder. We just, it's going to be really, really difficult to live in Minneapolis. I already know people who, including myself, who are planning to like not live in this city, not live in this country. We really need justice to prevail.
You know, BLM is bigger than an organization. It's bigger than a hashtag, a social media trend. It's bigger than a summer. It's bigger than this year, this moment, and this event. What it really represents is that we want equality. We're not asking for anything more than to be treated equal, fair, and just. And I don't think that's a tough ask. I don't think that's unreasonable. And I just encourage anyone, police officer or not, to understand that it's not just about the organization, it's about equality for not only us, but for everyone. You know, our lives need to matter so that everyone's life matters.